Hello friends, welcome back. This is Angular Developer Series. We are building e-commerce web application using Angular. This is episode 16 and we are close to the closer of the series. So in this, I'm going to show you how we will use the reactive forms in Angular to build a wonderful form-based pages. Alright, so without delay, come let's get started. Let's take a look at the demo before we dive into the code. So this is the application, the completed application, and the reactive form that we are going to use is the address. So the user needs to have their address in place. Only then they will be able to select the address and proceed with the checkout and place an order. So if I go to manage address, right? So I have like these many address, and then I can click on add new. And we're going to implement this reactive form on this page. Okay, so I'm going to keep this one simple. I have many superb videos in terms of reactive forms in detail in my channel. So if you know this concept, I can give you the reference of those videos and you can take a look at those videos, which will have much more details than what we cover in this video. All right, so it will be simple and easy. We're going to apply the reactive form concepts on this page, and not only that, we will also see how you can edit an existing address and update it. Alright, so this is what we're going to see. Alright, let's take a look at the demo. This is the application, and if you go to this address, it is going to pull up all the address information here, and I can edit this, add a new address. So I can fill up the address and I can just submit. It gets added to this address, and I can even delete this address. Everything works, right? So I can edit this address, I can change this to shipping, and even if I try to do something wrong, see, it gets disabled, right? So everything is in place and I can update this. So we're going to take a look at how we are implementing this. All right, here is the code, and don't worry about the code. The code can be taken from github.com/learnsmartcoding under this repository. If you go to the branch, you'll see episode 15 branch by the time the video comes, and you can get the entire code from the main branch. Okay, so you can do that. Don't worry about the code. Let's focus on the work. So I have a module called address module. In this address module, there are a couple of routes. The first one is the address list component, and then create address, edit address. Address list is the component where you land. This is the place where we land, and it fetches all the information, right? Similarly, create and edit is to edit a particular record. I have the microservices running, all the 4 microservices, okay, that supports this address as well. So if you go to this address list, what we are doing on this is we are calling an address endpoint, get all the address module, and then just loop through it and display the result. All right, on delete, we pass the address ID, and then we go to this delete endpoint, call the delete endpoint and clear off the address, like delete the address. Similarly, for edit, we will be using this route and pass the address ID. All right, now let's focus on one by one. Let's go to create address. Okay, see, my advice is to how you can approach this. When you go to HTML, if you expand this, basically it has an input, and it's basically all what we want is an input control, right? So first you design the HTML however you want, right? However design you want, you design everything, and then but that all comes under the form control. There's one thing called form tag, and you have to place every single thing under the form tag. Once you're done with that, I will tell you what you need to put it here to make it as a reactive form. Okay, so don't look at this code, don't worry about this. Let's go through one by one. Let's go to the component. So we have a component called create address component. So this create address component, all what you're going to do is we are going to use certain things from reactive module, and then we will build the reactive forms. Okay, so the first is we have a variable called address form, and that is of type form group. The moment you type form group, it might show you error unless you do this. So all what you have to do is, in order to use the reactive form, we are dealing with address module, right? This is an ng module. So come to that particular module. If you're using it in a different module or app module, come to that module. Under the imports, you have to import reactive form modules. You have to import this module, only then reactive forms will work. So Once you have that, if you use this form group, the error will go away. And then after that, in the constructor, we will use the form builder. Again, form builder is also from the reactive forms. Okay, so we use the form filter to inject the servers, and then we are going to create a form, initialize the form. So here is the form, right? So we call this init form, and this is the address form. So all we have to do is this dot fp, the form builder dot group. We have to open up the group and specify the controls here. So let's understand one by one. Once you open up the bracket, these are the properties that binds to the input element. You look at this, there are 5 HTML elements, 1 2 3 4 5: state, city, zip, and then address or not. The first one is the street, so I name it as a street, and then I'm specifying the default value is nothing, empty string, and then comma validation, a list of validation. Okay, so in the list of validation, I'm saying this is a required field and its maximum length is 255. So this is the right way of doing. Okay, you should not put required in the HTML. Instead, the form will be automatically placed with the required by the Angular. Similarly, for the city, state, we are saying the empty value, the default value is empty. We are saying both are required and its maximum length is 50. For zip, again, default is empty. We are passing more than one validation. Here we have 2 validation. We are passing here 3 validation. It is a required, maximum is 20, and a regex pattern. Okay, so that's what it says. It's basically 5 numbers followed by a dash by a 4 number. That's the United States. That's how the zip code states. So let's say 1 2 3 4 5 and then dash 1 2 3 4. So far no errors. The moment you change any of these things, it will show you error. See, all right, so that is what it is. So automatically the validation will come into picture. And then the last one is shipping address. Now all what I do is I try to keep these variables matching with the address form. So if you look at this endpoint, this is the post endpoint that we will use. And if you look at this, street, city, state, zip, and is shopping address, like shipping address, right? So this is the final model that we have to send it to this endpoint, and I will always try to match the name of the property here with the property of the name here. So it is easy to fetch the automatically remap it to the model that we want. Now that's how I have done it. So once you initialize the form, all what you have to do is go back to this place. Let's remove this. I think it's visible now. The first thing that you have to do is you have to decorate the form with the form group. So you have to put this parenthesis, the bracket, and then put a form group, and then assign the form group that we have it on the component, which is the address form. All right, and then we are also saying there's an event triggered called ng submit. That ng submit is applicable only for the form element, and so we are saying when you do a submit, call on submit function. Okay, that's what it says. Whenever a button with the type submit is triggered, this will get triggered. Eventually this method will get triggered. Okay, this method is here. We'll take a look at that shortly. Now first is input. We have this type. All of these things are common. What you need to know with respect to reactive form is the name that we provided there, street, that comes as the form control name. Okay, if you're not aware, let me tell you something. By default, there is a property called name for every single input element. Okay, so the form control name is eventually becomes a name. Okay, that translates into name. From Angular perspective, it is form control name. Okay, so we are assigning a variable name called street. That's it. Remaining things are all common. Nothing, no fancy. This is the only thing with respect to reactive form. And I just have a div which is going to get triggered when there is an error in the form. Okay, how do you get it? There is an invalid is valid function. In this function, we will pass the control name. We get the control. and we validate whether the control has an error or not. Like for example, it is touched and it should be invalid, like, which means basically if you don't, basically what it means is you didn't, when you go inside this form, you never got a chance to type anything unless you go inside, which means it's touched. Okay, so unless you go inside, it is not touched. The moment you go inside and come out, it's touched. That's why the state is required error is coming up. Okay, now I just have this one. You can always get an instance of the control name by using the form name dot get past the control name. Now let me tell you one more thing. Everything that you see in this form, right, this is called an abstract control. If you hover on it, it will tell you it's an abstract control. So every single thing here is a control. So we get the controls error by accessing the get property. Now exactly same thing for the city, state and zip. We assign this the respective name, and then we also format the error. After all, if you come to the bottom, okay, there's a button and type is submit. Okay, by default it is disabled, so the disable will get any, like it will be true based on the form is valid or not. If the form is not valid, the disable will kick in and the button will get disabled. Okay, and then the button will get enabled once the form is valid. And then when you hit on submit, like when you click on this button, this method is called. So if you go inside this method, all what we are doing is we are using the address form dot value to fetch the value, and we are casting it to the address model. Address model is exactly what you saw in the API. So once you have these two ready, all right, and then we will just assign a true or false properly by getting its value. So this model is now completed. We call the save address endpoint to pass this model, and that's it. We subscribe to the event, and if you expand it, all what you're doing is if this call was successful, we show the message and put them back to the address list. Okay, that's it. There is no other fancy thing with this reactive forms. It's the simplest one. And let's go to the edit address. The only difference between this and this is everything is same, except when you go and land on this page, okay, we need to call another endpoint to fetch the particular address detail. You look at this, we are putting this, we're subscribing to the parameters and then getting the ID, address ID. Once you have the address ID, we will have to load the address. So let's go one by one. So init form, we initiate the form. This is exactly the copy paste. It is initially initiated with the empty value. The form was initiated. However, once we have the ID of the address, we call the address and let's load it. So let's go to load address. See, we fetch the address details, and once the address is ready, like once the data comes back from that place, we are going to patch the address. You see this address form dot patch value, we directly put this content, the address model. The reason why it will automatically patch is the property of the incoming data is matching with the property of the address form, which is defined here. Street, city, state, zip, everything is matching. That's why it will automatically do a patch. So let's go to the edit, patch. So once we patch the information, what will happen? So let's go to address. If you go edit, if you do edit, see, initialized and then the data was returned. After the data is returned, it is automatically patched. You can also look at this. If I just refresh this, you will see how the data is coming. See, address 10, and you can see in the response, this address ID, user ID. See, these properties are matching with the property that we have it on the form. That's why dot patch value will automatically patch every single thing. You don't need to patch a control by control. Okay, so this is how the reactive form has been used in this project. I suggest whoever is progressing, whoever is trying to learn this from this video, you take this one, disable the AuthCAD for this managed product, and I would suggest you to use the product endpoints to create the product, edit the product, and delete the product. Do exactly like this. It will be hands-on for you, so you can do this section based on how we did the reactive form for this section. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up, and if you have any questions, put it in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to help you, and I will see you in the next video. That will be the final video of the series. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more tech tutorials. And don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified when we post new videos. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Happy coding!